creating inclusive cultures. Inclusion is as much the responsibility of society as it is the responsibility of schools. We realized from the previous chapter that the key to successful inclusive practices are merging of frameworks and aligning of definition of disability. In this chapter, we shall learn that inclusive education is an ongoing collaboration process that needs to be dynamically revisited. For it truly work, its essence has to resonate to all stakeholders of education. What stakeholders can do? The right-based approach to educational programming insists that no right can exist without a corresponding governmental obligation. Thus, governments and communities are starting to understand how they are accountable to children with additional needs in fulfilling their right to education and providing access to children to quality education that is also safe, welcoming, and inclusive. Legally defining terms and formalizing a system for setting up inclusive schools in areas where there are none to begin with ensures uniformity, universality, consistency of implementation, and eventual success of inclusion in the country. The following are steps stakeholders can take to create inclusive cultures. First, set the parameters for inclusion. The government has identified key people and professions and highlighted important factors leading to the success of inclusive placement process, committee, staffing, and responsibilities. Teacher training and compensation, incentives for private sector participation, and collaboration of the Department of Education with other branches of government. These clearly show welfare and development of children with additional needs, the responsibility of all. These are also consistent with what the UNESCO pushes for in terms of getting every stakeholder involved. Second, build key people. The government recognizes that the need for teacher training, both in the special needs education and general education levels. It also pushes for the use of evidence-based teaching frameworks, provision of student assistance, and access to instructional materials. Most importantly, calls are made for continuing research and forming of policies to be initiated by agencies such as the Department of Education so as to further refine the inclusive process and have it tailored to fit to the needs of children with additional needs. This is an important factor that every nation has to constantly revisit as the needs of students across continents, though similar, would have nuances depending on where they reside. Educational frameworks cannot just be lifted and copy-pasted with the expectation that what work for one country will work for another. UNESCO 2005 states that clarity of purpose, realistic goals, motivation, support, resources, and an evaluation of policies and practicals all contribute to a successful shift toward inclusion. Third, identify and eradicate barriers. UNESCO Guides for Inclusion 2005 advocates for the identification and removal of obstacles that have to do with transforming prevailing attitudes and values on a systematic level.
Good day class, I am Althea A. Kessler, your teacher for today, and I am going to tackle about the most common barriers in inclusion, especially sa school natin. So, first we have the attitude, value system, misconception, and societal norms. So, it is defined as the one that can lead to prejudices and or actual resistance to implement inclusive practices. So, from the word prejudices, ito ay nakakapag-cause ng harm, especially it is crucial to those individual having disabilities or individual having impairment. For example, si student na PWD, like hindi nakakalakad, bingi, or kanang hindi nakakabasa, hindi pagsalita, something like that. So, sa attitude naman, syempre si student, every individual naman talaga, every student has its different attitude din, no? So, may mga students na very bully. So, syempre, yung mga bully, they are attacking. Syempre, pag merong student ng PWD sa section niya, syempre, I guess they are the most prone, no? Prone individual na makaka-receive or makaka-experience ng bullying. And sa value system, misconception, sa societal norms also, no, they are the one who is prone. So, pag sinabi natin societal norms, ito ay mga paniniwala or kanang mga nakatatak na sa isipan ng isang student. So, syempre, si students, nakatatak or nakasanayan na niya na yung mga students or individuals having impairment or disability, for example, yung mga PWDs, like yung sinabi ko na kanina, yung binanggit ko kanina, they think of them as they are not belong sa group, especially sa mga students na normal or having a regular classes. They think na hindi sila belong kasi nga iba yung nagagawa nila sa mga taong may impairments or disabilities. Kasi person having disabilities kasi limited lang yung mga nagagawa nila kasi nga they have mga lackings or kulang sa kanila. So, yun. That is the number one barrier. Next, let's go to the lack of teacher training and low teacher efficacy. So, it is defined as whether training and teaching strategies using curriculum frameworks or behavior and classroom management, lack of training as well as low confidence in one's own skills can directly affect how inclusive practices are implemented. So, syempre, if si teacher mismo is lack of training and also having this low teaching efficacy, syempre, si teacher is hindi niya directly maa-address yung mga students na mga disabled. Syempre, mag-focus tayo sa kanila kasi they are the one na tinatarget talaga nito, no? So, si teacher, pag kulang siya ng training, parang hindi niya alam kung ano ba yung mga strategies and skills na gagawin niya in order to aid or to solve such problems na ini-experience ng mga students natin having disabilities. So, I have example of this na nabasa ko sa Facebook na although hindi naman wala namang kapansanan yung bata, but she is very prone sa bullying. Like, yung mother nyo is kanang nagtataka na pag uwi ng bata is marami ng mga gasgas sa mukha, like nababasa siya from head to toe, parang ginabulig siya ng grabe-grabe. So, si mama or si mother ng children is nag-report na siya dun sa school principals and also sa admins ng mga schools. So, ang solusyon ng teacher is i-meet up yung parent ng nambubuli at saka parent ng binubuli. So, ang nangyari is parang na-neglect yung reklamo ni parent na binuli yung anak. It's because kasi yung action na yun is parang walang kasunod ba or walang follow up na ginawa para mas masolve or parang ma-aid or masolusyonan pa ba, like pwedeng ilipat sa other section yung nabubuli, like that, no? So, yung school or si teacher mismo, si advisor is parang wala siyang follow-up na ginawa. Like, yun nga yung sinabi ko. So, parang paulit-ulit pa din na nagaganap sa bata yun. So, the other day na umuwi naman yung anak niya, having bukol, malaking bukol. So, parang grabe na yung reaction ng mother niya. So, ang nagawa para na solusyon ni teacher is kanang i-meet up pa din si parent na nambubuli. So, the parent na binuli yung anak niya, think of this na parang, ay, ganun pa din yung solusyon na ginawa ni teacher, parang pabalik-balik na lang, wala din namang progress, yung parang ganun pa din naman yung kahihinat na ng anak ko. So, no, it's observable na si teacher talaga or si advisor talaga yung dapat na magkaroon ng responsibility talaga sa kanya yan lahat. Kasi siya yung teacher advisor. And dapat si teacher, she already know or she has the strategies or mga skills nga ano ba dapat yung gawin niya para ma-stop talaga yung ganyan. Like, hindi na mangyari ulit. So, kailangan si teacher is fully trained and having this high teacher or high teaching efficacy para ma-feel ng mga students or mga bullied students, especially yung mga individual having disabilities na they are included sa school or they are included sa section. Next, or the third one, is the poor language communication. It defined as the language barriers may also directly have implications on how well inclusive practices are implemented. So, from the word poor language and communication. So, kung sa normal people din naman, may mga ganitong instances like mga students natin or mga class natin ng mga IPs, indigenous people, 'di ba? They have other language na hindi naiintindihan ng other students or ng classmates nila. That's why parang nabubulid sila kasi iba yung sa pinagsasabi ng other students, like parang hindi sila nagkakaintindihan. That's why nagkakaroon ng commotion or merong pagtatalo or merong bullying na nagaganap, no? So, other example is yung students na hindi nakakapagsalita, like hindi nakakapagsalita. So, syempre kanang amang, so mabulid yun siya, no? Kasi kanang he or she can't defend himself or he or she can't speak para parating yung gusto niyang information na mabigay niya sa classmates niya, no? So, it is very prone also sa mga students na ganun. Next, the fourth one is the lack of policies. So, it is defined, policies have the ability to unify the beliefs and mobilize resources. Unfortunately, lack of it can become convenient justification for inaction. So, syempre, pag si school or si classroom is kulang sa policies or hindi na strengthen or hindi very hindi grabe yung pundasyon ng policy sa isang classroom or even sa school, syempre madali lang ma-break yung rule kasi it's not strengthened. Like yung mga students is hindi natatakot na mag-abide sa law or mag-abide sa policy. It's because siguro walang mga actions na ginagawa or walang mga consequences na ginagawa. So next, the last barrier in inclusion, especially sa school, is too much focus on performance-based standard. It is defined as schools have also reportedly refused inclusion because of fear of the presence of learners with additional needs, pull down their rankings and standardized tests. So dito, yung mga students na mga PWDs or students na halimbawa pilay, hindi nakakalakad, or si student na hindi nakakakita, si student na bingi, something like that. So, pag as a teacher or si advisor is nag-focus lang sa performance-based standards, so how about those individuals having impairment or disabilities? So, diba, nane-neglect yung presence nila na they can feel na they are not included dito sa section kasi parang walang ginagawa si teacher na paraan na ma-include ka sa activity na yun. So, dapat as a teacher, i-appreciate natin si student or dagyan natin ng value si student na may impairment or disability, or i-address natin yung needs or kailangan nila na gusto nilang ma-feel na they are included talaga no, sa activity, sa class, sa mga pinagagawa ninyo sa loob ng classroom. So, for example, sa performance-based standard like volleyball, like basketball, yan yung activity na ginawa nyo. So, si PWD na hindi nakakalakad or they can't jump, they can't hindi sila makatakbo. So, si teacher, pwede niyang i-assign yung certain individual na yun as mag-score, something like that. No? So, at least man lang may magawa si individual or may magawa si student with disability or impairment, or ma-feel niya man lang na okay, belong siya dito kahit man lang nag-score siya, no? At least may ginawa siya or belong din siya doon. And that's all.
Producing inclusive policies. As reiterated in the previous chapters, the premise of inclusion starts with an acceptance and embracing diversity. It is difficult to start movement if this practice is not rooted on a culture that assumes the right perspective and values. For simultaneous paradigm shifts to happen among its education stakeholders, schools must first create a new culture. UNESCO 2005 realistically acknowledges that a societal change in attitude need not be initially present in a community before inclusion can be fully practiced. Rather, it must be viewed as a perspective or an ideal to work toward without this realization. Differences in standards and quality of education may surface as potential problems. Just very recently, the pre-service education curriculum was restructured so that special needs education units are not only given to special needs education majors, but to others education majors as well. This is a huge step for teachers and a nod to inclusive education. The following is a list of other possible steps that educators can take to facilitate the much needed societal shift and inform policy. Involve other sectors of society. Current training and awareness campaigns seem to limit the movement of inclusion to a mere homeschool relationship. At most, these are extended to the departments for social welfare and health. However, for an inclusive setup to truly be successful, active involvement of the entire community must be ensured. For instance, those in the business, commercial, security, and religious sectors must also be given representation in trainings. These campaigns must be wide enough in scope as to cover supermarkets, restaurants, malls, public and government agencies, not directly. Collaborate. Whether creating an academic program specific to a child with additional needs or creating a new legislative bill for the PWD community, collaboration is crucial. Each member of the inclusive education team would have their own strengths and weaknesses, and these have to be used wisely to benefit the child with additional needs. Vilcora Tiangco 2014 states that general education teachers are trained in a general curriculum but would not know how to teach and manage children with additional needs, while a special needs education teacher would be equipped to handle atypical behaviors but would not know much about the general education curriculum. True collaboration would guarantee an inclusive program that would cover as many areas as possible. Include transitions in planning. An abrupt systematic change that is not well planned or that disregards practices, whether existing or implied, may hinder the shift to inclusion and cause resentment from all stakeholders. Instead, current practices have to be respected and honored so as to facilitate a gradual shift to inclusive education. Booth and Ainscoe 2002 recommended that schools reflect on their current policies and practices to check their readiness for an inclusive setup. They also devised a questionnaire that would help administrators, faculty, and other stakeholders comprehensively gather baseline data, a move that would greatly help in informing policy that would be examine different aspects of the schools and the delivery of its services. Specifically, schools may look at the following: student admissions.
UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, is a curriculum design, development, and deliver framework used to create inclusive and accessible learning for environments. So the main goal of UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, is to ensure the inclusion in teaching and learning process while encouraging the development of expert learners. So now we have here the three elements or the three principles of UDL. First, we have the multiple means of representation. Second, the provide multiple means of action and expressions. And third, we have the multiple means of engagement. Let's discuss the first element, the multiple means of Let's discuss the first element, the multiple means of representation. As a future educator, we need to present information and content in different ways. We need to use real scenarios, real experience, We need to support text with visual and audio presentation, and we can present digital rather than printed or printed module so that they can scan and access it easily. So let's move on our second element, the multiple means of action and expressions. Differentiate the ways that students can express what they know. So as a future educator, we need to ask our students on what are their ideas, opinions, perceptions, and experience in that matter topic, because sometimes we can deny the fact that our students has a great idea than us, and especially if they really experience it. And so we need to respect and consider their answers. Finally, we have the third element, the multiple means of engagement. So as a future educator, we need to stimulate interest and motivation for learning. For example, if you notice that your students are not listening, talking to their classmates, others are sleeping and not focusing your discussions, they are being distracted, you need to have a strategy or create an actions that can bring back their focus to your discussions. For example, caught their attention or conduct a games or icebreaker so that your class will not be boring.